All right. So, good morning. Today on the Patreon, we're getting into Genesis 3:1 through 3:24. And that is when everything, well, again, Genesis, a lot happens in every page. And in this particular episode, Adam and Eve decide to eat the fruit from the tree of knowledge. God loses his shit for the very first time ever, a habit that he gets into. Um, he takes the legs off of snakes, which I guess they had legs before. I'd call that a lizard, but apparently snakes at one point in time were lizards with legs. Wait, yeah, yeah. Well, like any lizard, I think legs are the defining trait of a lizard. But anyway, as punishment for tempting Eve, the big dude decides to rip the thing's legs off. So then God loses it, and he creates these leather clothes for Adam and Eve. Now, it's said by some that it was Nimrod, descendant of Adam and Eve, who acquired some of these leather clothes from his ancestors, and that these leather clothes that God made granted invulnerability, and that is what allowed Nimrod to conquer and found cities and all of that stuff. Nimrod's an interesting character. He only gets like a passing reference in the New American Bible, and however, there are ancillary writings regarding this guy. But yeah, these leather clothes grant invulnerability, and frankly, as angry as God was, I think it's pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool that he gave them magical armor to protect them because there were beasts and stuff out there. Sorry, gotta wet my whistle. I got some tea here. Anyway, yeah, and then they're exiled from the Garden of Eden, forced to scratch in the soil for sustenance. No longer will food grow on trees. Danger awaits. The next part is as a little kid who was really into like Dungeons and Dragons and stuff, and would go to church and try to surreptitiously read my D&D material, really upsets me. And I went to, not only did I go to Presbyterian church, probably, well, God, man, I mean, the whole time I was living with my mom and dad, pretty much. I mean, that was the thing. We would have to go to church. And then they sent me, because we lived in the country, I had to choose a school that, and, well, I didn't choose it, but they sent me to a little Catholic school in Salinas, California. And nobody ever mentioned the fact that God stationed a cherubim to guard the tree. Regardless of what a cherub actually is, it says in the New American Bible that he gave it a flaming sword. Would have hooked me, would have intrigued me, would have got me seriously reading the Bible as a young child. So if you are a priest or a pastor, minister, whatever the hell, don't skip that part when you're trying to teach the Bible to children. Are you kidding me? Don't skip the flaming sword. I mean, look, I'm a I'm not religious at all. I guess I'm an anti-theist theophile. However, just to do you guys a solid, because as much as I read the Bible and studied the Bible, probably most of my contemporaries are people of faith. So if you're teaching this stuff, talk about the damn flaming sword. Just bring that up, you know, in terms of building the flock. You'll get the attention of the kids. You know, you don't get the attention of the kids, the boring stuff that y'all focus on. Like you know, like you you skip the flaming sword, and then just a few chapters later, a few verses later, you go into this big thing about Cain killing Abel, which is not a good or happy story. It's not fun. You read that story and you're like, oh, he killed his brother. Okay, fuck this book. Focus on the flaming sword, and then just be like, yeah, Cain and Abel had some issues, and Cain was psycho. So anyway, moving on. Nimrod then used and put that Nimrod thing about the magic. In fact, put Nimrod back in. Period. Just the conquest is always the best parts of the Old Testament. I mean, not the best parts in terms of what people do, but Anyway, yeah. So this is Genesis 3:1 to, hold on, where is it? 3:24, and you know, the first time God loses his temper, which is pretty quick after he makes people. Um, and this is pretty much what the whole book is about: God losing his temper. The Old Testament, the Torah, as it were. God losing his temper, being unstable. However, I do think, once again, God's humanity is what makes him an interesting character, and the fact that he made them magical leather armor for their journey into the wasteland, I think that to me is pretty cool. And it's also kind of human, you know. He's so angry at his kids, they messed up majorly. We continue to be cursed to this day because of their original sin. He ended up having to sacrifice his kid. If you go down that route and you read other works of different cults, um, but he did. He was like, nah, nah, I'm gonna make some leather armor. Which, furthermore, there's a debate among ancient scholars and stuff if leather armor was even really a thing that was used like as armor. I don't know. One dude says that when we see leather armor depicted in medieval work, it's actually gambeson, which, okay, I can't imagine nobody put strips of leather armor, though, or strips of leather as a protective measure. They continue to this day, and in fact, if it was a zombie apocalypse, yeah, a big leather motorcycle jacket is what I would have to protect against bites. Absolutely. Nothing would do better, you know. I'd make it supple, so I could move around, swing my hatchet and stuff like that. Anyway, I'm off the topic of the Bible, which means I guess that's all I have to say. So thank you for joining us, and thanks for supporting the project. Now I gotta do this awkward push the button part. So 1, 2.